quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Welcome to Black Issues Forum. I'm Mitchell Lewis. When most people hear of civil rights, usually thoughts of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s comes to mind. Although the efforts and the sacrifices of decades ago resulted in a degree of equality for African Americans and other minorities in this country, many inequalities still exist. The Gina 6 incident in Louisiana had contrasting results of how blacks and whites were treated for similar actions. Other events such as recovery efforts in minority communities following Hurricane Katrina, as well as the recent incident in West Virginia involving the kidnapping and rape of an African American woman, raises questions if the civil rights movement needs to be revived or revamped. Our guests for this discussion are Kevin Smith, the first vice chair of the African American Caucus and chair for Minority Affairs of the North Carolina Democratic Party. Kevin, talk about your role with the North Carolina Democratic Party.
Well, my role is simply to not only just inform the community about what's going on, but actually have them actively involved far beyond voting, but actually holding the candidates accountable for the legislations they pass and those they do not pass, and informing them on long-range policy analysis. What is going to be the impact of certain legislation when it's passed or when it's not passed? So those are the things that I'm trying to work with throughout the party in my role.
Kevin, in light of the Gina 6 incident, as well as some other racially charged incidents across the country, looking here at North Carolina, do you feel that there may be some type of loosening of civil rights here?
I feel that I'm not going to say loosening of civil rights, because as we may have had, as we talked about in our conversation prior to this, I think that what is happening is there's still a continuation of some of the things that never really stopped. For me personally, I think what you have to do is look at the policies that are in place that allow people to react to their feelings. I'm convinced you can't really go in and change a person's mind or outlaw their mind. What you can do is legislate how they react. So I think from my perspective and my position, the key to it is to make sure that there are policies and legislation in place that help regulate what a person can and cannot do. To me, that was the basis of the civil rights movement, was not necessarily the people they were trying to remove, but the policies that allow them to do what they had done, such as in Gina. What laws allow the DA to charge these guys with attempted murder? There are some things that we need to evaluate, but specifically here in North Carolina, I think what we need to do is be more strict and really direct in looking at the impact of some of the policies and legislations that are being passed.
Kevin, your thoughts, but another question as well. Do you think that leadership has a role to play, especially when it comes to some of these issues of civil rights?
Well, going to your first question, one of the incidents that really stick out in my mind prior to some of these other ones was the Don Imus situation. Somewhere down the line, Don Imus felt comfortable enough that he could make those comments on the air. And it's not just that one comment. It is noted that he made previous comments before. So he felt comfortable enough in that setting, in that arena, to say some of those things he said about those women, and felt as though there would be minor to no repercussions. So my concern is that there is a feeling that you can still do those things and face no consequences. And let's look at the consequences Don Imus faced. He lost his job, some thought, but he was paid millions a year on this contract prior to those comments. After that, he was fired, but he's suing the television company, received the settlement, and now there's a possibility that he may be back on the air. So what were the consequences for his comments? But yet you have those ladies on that team who throughout for the rest of their lives are going to be known for those comments. They're going to remember that, and that's going to be in their mind. So that I'm looking at that there is something in the air that make people feel as though they can make these comments, feel comfortable about it. Just as right after Jenna, there was an incident in Alexandria where they say these teenagers were riding with a noose on the back of their truck. They done that because they felt that they could get away with it. Very few people are going to do things that they know they're going to get caught for doing. So that's to answer your first question. I go to your second one. Leadership plays a big part in it, and I think for so long there's been this battle between Generation X and the baby boomers as far as being active in the civil rights movement, and Generation X has been labeled as those who have assimilated to mainstream America. But Gen X showed that Generation X will stand up for injustice anywhere, as long as we have that channel of information. So now is an opportunity for those who have the leadership experience in organizing and dealing with these injustices, especially on the racial front, to come in and to help work with those, with the Generation X and the Generation Ys, and to say, hey, these are our experience. You may want to consider this when organizing, because at the core of it is still the same: injustice, inequalities, and unfairness.
And Kevin, looking from the view of, say, the North Carolina Democratic Party, what are some of the things that are taking place within the party to try and at least make people aware of civil rights and perhaps, well, make people more informed of what's going on?
Well, that's key. Is what we're trying to do is open the channels of information. How do we funnel information from a particular candidate, from the legislature, from those who are doing policy analysis? How do we funnel that information to the general public? Because one of the things we can't do is narrow the scope of the civil rights movement. It wasn't just for African Americans. It was for the disabled. It was for women. It was for equal employment. One of the things that King was on his way to help fight for was for the garbage workers when he was assassinated. So it was, when we look at the civil rights movement, it's a very, very broad topic that covers a lot, but often over time we've narrowed that scope to just African Americans, where actually a lot of people benefited from it, but a lot of them really don't recognize it. But getting back to your question, what we're trying to do is funnel information, give information out, information with literacy. There's a partnership there. We could help to put together some type of pamphlets of information so people can read and gain information through the website. We want to come together and find a way that we can take this information and funnel it through the people, so when they go to the polls, when they have these candidate forums, they are well informed and not just voting for the candidate that talks the loudest or talks the most, or has the event with the most food. We can be very, very informed of their intentions and past actions.